think the world would be a much better place if everybody was doing what they love, whether that be, making music or creating some sort of art or whatever you're passionate about. So. So I first got into music when I was about 12 years old. Not to make this into like a sob story really, but I have no siblings, but I had a cousin who was like my brother growing up. And he passed when I was 12 years old. He died of leukemia. I was super young, and I think it's hard for a kid that young to really understand the concept of death and what that actually meant. But I picked up guitar. He died in March, and I picked up guitar. I asked for one for my birthday that June, and I just completely got lost in the guitar, learning guitar. I'd go to school, and then I'd come home, and I would just spend hours and hours till bedtime just practicing. I took lessons for a little while, but I felt like I wasn't learning fast enough with the lessons, so I remember I bought this book. It was Troy Stetina, and the guy would shred on the guitar, like crazy stuff. If you've ever heard of like the guitar virtuosos back in the day, like Steve Vai, Joe Satriani, Yngwie Malmsteen, and those guys, I was listening to a lot of that back then, and I wanted to shred guitar like those guys. So I bought this book that had a CD with it, and it had all these exercises, like where you would, try to alternate pick or like sweep pick arpeggios and all this crazy stuff. And I would just start really slow, and then I would just work my way up fast. And I did that for probably a couple years and got pretty good at the guitar. Picked up piano around age 14 and took some music theory classes in high school. Music was a huge part of my life as a teenager. And piano, I never took lessons. I started out just like translating what I knew on guitar over to piano. So I'd take the notes from the guitar and just take it to the piano and try to play the same songs. But then I realized, there was so much cooler stuff to learn on the piano, pieces made specifically for the piano. So I started learning sheet music. I still can't really read sheet music all that great, but I can get by. But I take the same concept where I would just learn like a little phrase, and just practice it over and over till I had it, and then I'd move on to the next phrase. And I did that kind of off and on for years through my teens and 20s. I played lead guitar in a few bands, like metal bands, when I was in my 20s. We played some live shows and different things, but never made it all that far. We played some pretty cool gigs, but that fell apart, and I got into dance music thanks to my friend Jake. We were at the beach one day in Yorktown, Virginia, just hanging out, and he had like a little Bluetooth speaker or something. Actually, it probably wasn't even Bluetooth then. It was probably like an aux cord plugged in. But so he had Daft Punk playing, and it was like Around the World or one of those tracks. And I remember just thinking like, man, this is cool as shit. Like, what is this? And he told me Daft Punk. So that night I went and looked up Daft Punk on the computer and like tried to find like artists like Daft Punk, and of course I found like Justice and a lot of those guys. I was listening to like, I think I was into Tiesto and stuff when I was maybe Darude, Sandstorm. When I was in like high school. So a brief stint of kind of listening to that stuff, but yeah, Jake definitely got me back on the dance music train, and I just started, finding similar music to that and just getting lost in that whole world. And I tried like FL Studio a couple times and got frustrated with how complicated it was, and kind of gave it up a few times. But then I read a book called, I've talked about this before, the book Mastery by Robert Greene. And man, that book, like, it just lit up inside of me that, you know, music is your life. Like, you need to do whatever it takes to make a life out of making music. So I put that book down and I opened up, at the time, an illegal copy of FL Studio. I try to purchase all my software now, keep it legal. But yeah, I opened up FL Studio and I pulled up some YouTube tutorials and I said, I'm going to learn how to do this no matter what it takes. And I remember making a really shitty like drum and bass track. I don't know, at the time I was like listening to some Liquid D&B. So I made a really shitty drum and bass track, and that was my first like full track. And yeah, I just started making music with FL Studio, and that was almost 6 years ago. So I think March will be 6 years. March 2019 will be 6 years that I've been, non-stop producing electronic music. So yeah, I guess that's kind of the story there. So what's next? I already have another EP concept in the works. I'm thinking this one's going to be more like a 4 to 6 track EP. I want to do a few instrumental tracks and a few tracks with vocals, and I'm not going to say too much about it right now, but there's going to be a whole overarching theme concept to the EP. So yeah, I will most likely self-release that guy, and I still want to maybe release tracks on some labels here and there. I'd love to get a track on like 03, or like a 2-track EP or something. Colorize I like a lot, and I mean, it'd be awesome to get on like Anjuna Deep or Anjuna Beats or something one day. Maybe like Ride Recordings. Yeah, I definitely want to keep self-releasing and doing cool, unique things like this. But I'll probably still shop some tracks out to labels just to kind of knock those bucket list items off and get that exposure. Yeah, so I know I've released a lot of like trance tracks over the past year or so. This EP is obviously more on the progressive house side. Transhumanize, I think, is 124 BPM, and Uncanny Valley is 125 BPM. So even the Sparks Fly remix I did was more trance, but it was still like 125 BPM. I don't know. I think the progressive house kind of deeper vibe fits my personality a little bit more. Definitely a bit quiet, more introverted. Where trance is kind of loud and in your face a lot of times. But I never want to really constrict myself to just one genre. I've even done some chill out stuff, like the track Snowfall. So yeah, I like to bounce around, between trance, progressive house, chill out, even some more like deep house stuff I'm thinking, I'm working on currently. So yeah, I like it all. Breakbeat stuff, the new EP, after this one actually has some breakbeat stuff that I was looking at putting on there. We'll see how that goes. Sometimes I feel like a little hermit here in my studio, just kind of working all the time and not really connecting with the outside world as much as maybe I should be. But I feel like my good friends, when they see me, it's like we never missed a beat. So yeah, I really appreciate you guys who continue to follow me on this journey. I don't think I'm going away anytime soon. I'm going to keep at this thing, and I hope to inspire others, help others on their journeys in creating music. I have my blog, and working on some other projects to try to help others who are aspiring producers. I'd like to do some stuff to really help some other aspiring artists, make waves with their music. I've seen some success. I'm nowhere near where I want to be, obviously, but yeah, I've seen some success, and I want to help others see some success too. I think the world would be a much better place if everybody was doing what they love, whether that be making music or creating some sort of art, or whatever you're passionate about. So yeah.